Hey, what's up, guys? I was gonna do a video on magazine maintenance. So I was trying to avoid doing a full disassembly because Eagle 6 already has a good video on that, but I figured I'd just go through the whole process, kind of talk you through it. If you get good at these, I mean, you know, they should only take like 15 minutes to do. So you got like 6 mags or something, just, set aside an hour or two and you should be able to knock it out. Gets faster like anything once you start doing it more. So first thing is I like to remove from the bottom, not the top. First time I did it, I took out these 2 pins and took the whole top assembly out. That proved to be a real pain in the ass getting it back in, just with the spring tension, the magazine follower and everything. So yeah, doing it from the bottom, makes it easy, and it makes reassembly really easy too, as I'll show you at the end of the video here. There's just these 2 screws. And again, I know Eagle 6 already did this, so I didn't really feel the need to like reinvent the wheel or whatever. This is under spring tension, so make sure you capture this base plate like so. Spring will come undone. What you don't want to have happen is lose this little base plate follower, which goes on the end of the spring, and it's captured in that little groove there on the base plate. So just make sure you hold on to that so you don't lose it like I almost just did. And as I'm gonna take some parts off camera and just clean them up as I go. But yeah, anyways, I know Eagle 6 already kind of did this. I just thought that I have little tips or tricks that I found along the way might help people. I'm sure that, everyone might have their own little methods, but this is what works for me. So I start with the bottom. That dumps out the spring. The follower is still in there. A lot of times, sometimes it'll come out. A lot of times it gets stuck in there. It's fine. We'll get it out when we get the top end out. So I'm going to start with these bottom valves. One thing is I really like these AIP valve toolkit. You get a set of 3 for like 20, 25 bucks or something. And it's just really nice having a driver. I don't know why like nobody makes like bits for these to go with, like micro tool kits or anything. Usually guys just have these spinner tri-tools, which are still nice. I mean, they're nice. Got 3-in-1 tool, keep it in your bag in the field or whatever. I still actually like to use them for like initial untorquing and final retorquing, just because with that Y pattern, it kind of makes it easy to get more leverage. But when it comes to actually like unscrewing something, having a straight driver is just way easier. And I hate this valve the most with these 2 slots. I don't know why they didn't just make 4, like a flathead or something. Anyways, so yeah, oh, I already fucked up. Actually, you want to leave this big one in there and take out the inner little inlet fill valve first. As you can see, because it's screwed into this bigger one, so god damn it. So it makes it tricky to remove after the fact, which I just did like 5 of these, but I guess I got the camera jitters or something. All right, so yeah, keeping that locked in makes removing this inner one much easier. That's a happy little mistake right there, actually, because you can see the Y. This is aftermarket inlet valve, I think 9-ball, I believe. These O-rings, like I see like a little, I can't tell if that's a thread or a little piece of O-ring coming off, but these things get pretty shot, honestly, like to the point where I would think you should probably replace them. And you can. They make, magazine O-ring kits for these. But honestly, I've never had a problem with just simply like cleaning them, re-lubing them, reinstalling them, and they seem to just keep on trucking. So these mags are super durable. It's one thing I like about the platform. Not only are they durable, for the most part. There's one actual issue that I'll show you guys later. Should probably make a separate video on. But for the most part, they're really durable and they're real easy to maintain. Versus, I don't know, I'm not super familiar with all the aftermarkets mags. Honestly, I kind of gave up on them. I did have some of the earlier Ace One Arm P mags, which looked really cool, and they worked all right, but I always had leaking issues with them. Some guys don't, other guys did. I always did. Like, all the ones I ever had always leaked, and I could never, it wasn't a big deal. It was a real slow leak. Like, it wouldn't affect me on game day, but I'd come back to them like a few days later and they'd be dry. So yeah, one thing. So anyways, and on top of that, maintaining them was like, once you took them apart, unlike these, as you'll see, are very simple. The internals of those were a mess. There was a bunch of tiny screws. There was like a wound up spring. It almost reminded you like an AEG magazine, versus these, as you see, is just a straight spring and follower. I don't know. I just think these are way better design. I don't know why people can't. People always got to reinvent the wheel. It's like, just follow this interior design and make a freaking PMAG shell. I'm no engineer. Maybe messing with polymers, it changes things, I guess. But they were lighter, which was nice. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but I like to do a squirt of silicone oil and also give a healthy little dab of silicone grease on top of that. Reason being, oil's going to wear out pretty fast and the grease will last longer. And since this isn't something we're going to be digging into very often, I want these O-rings to stay lubed up as long as possible. For me, typically, no matter what, once by the time I remove these, they're all bone dry. Because honestly, it depends on how well you take care of your mags, I guess. Like, do you leave some propane in them? You always should, for sure. And do you maybe fill up a little bit of silicone oil every 5 or 10 mag fills or something? They say you should. You probably should. Definitely probably should. I don't, just because I'm lazy. And like I said, I probably, maybe I didn't say yet, but I probably get about, so the bottom's done. I re-lubed those, reinstalled. Now we're going to move on to the top side, just knock out these pins. I should probably do this every 6 months. It just depends, how often do you play and use it? What's your environment? Like, mine's really dusty. We got a lot of fine dust, and it just gets in everything. So these things can get kind of jammed up. Honestly, it's just amazing they don't get more jammed up. But usually my problem is either maybe there's something, spring gets caught up, or I'll have BBs just kind of loose in there, not feeding. Like right now there's no spring in there, but it'll kind of almost look like that. And so that could be one issue, or I'll have leaks, which is probably mostly the one in here. But oops, yeah, see this one, I don't know what was going on with this. I think it probably had a leak and I had BBs in there already. But yeah, no matter what, I've never had it where if all I have to do is just take these apart, clean them, re-lube them, reinstall them, and they work again for another 6 months or a year or whatever. These honestly have been sitting for almost a year, I think. Some of them have gone down a few months ago, though. I have spare mags, so I tend to just throw them in a pile, and then once there's enough of them that need maintenance, I will kind of knock them all out like this. So yeah, for this guy, only things are these little bolt hold open parts kind of fall out, and then there's this rubber gasket on the bottom. But I'll just kind of wipe this down, especially that little square which is exposed where the mag catches onto the receiver. That gets a lot of dust in there. So I'm just going to wipe all this stuff down. Nothing too crazy. Actually, most of it's a pretty sealed system, so they don't really get much, even with all the dust I play in and stuff. I don't have a bunch of dust in here, which is pretty impressive. Now you could pop this pin out and take the feed lips off, and that's where your gas router is. I'm just gonna leave it because I don't really see a need to lube the gas router. Maybe I should be, I don't know, but it's fine. But I am gonna clean out this kind of feed lip channel area. There's lots of dust in there since that's pretty exposed, but honestly not bad. Just, yeah, boom, okay. Looks pretty good. Now I gotta knock this pin out to get the other valve in here. This is a one-way pin. It has kind of grooves, so this kind of goes in this way. So I'm gonna, knock it out from this direction. I should have said in the beginning, all you really need for this is a 2.0 hex key. For the base plate screws, I have like a thin punch that's for all these pins. I have a bigger punch just to help reseat those pins when we do that. Your valve tools, like I said, you know, this is fine if that's all you have. I do like these AIPs. And a screwdriver, which we'll use to reinstall the spring in the end. I'll show you, but that's it. And then, you know, a rag and some lube. I like to use Super Lube, the grease, and their oil. So let me knock this out. Sorry guys, if you haven't caught on by now, I'm not like no professional freaking YouTuber. I don't, normally they have all their tools laid out and you're gonna get the little screen telling you everything you need on the install and everything's gonna be perfect. You love it when like you see like car install videos and they just do the install perfect, make it look so easy, and then you go to do it and you're like spend a freaking hour on one part or bolt or something. But these are pretty easy. So that's out. That pin came out, which released this little, I don't know, valve knocker thingy. And I've got another valve in here. I'll just loosen that with that. I can already tell that was pretty loose. So that's probably why this mag was leaking. Which unfortunately, you have to disassemble the whole thing to get to this guy right here. So, and I don't bother like removing all these little O-rings. I mean, you could, I've done it before, but I don't see the point, honestly. So I'm just gonna throw a dab of oil on there. Might have been a little too much. Top it off with some grease, which that's definitely too much. And voila. I mean, you know, you probably don't need this much. Might be being a little too liberal, but it's not going to hurt anything. Worst is going to happen is you might get some like white residue in there sometimes if you do too much grease. It's just all the dead dried up grease or whatever. I do like to clean out this cavity. It's usually, yep, gets pretty dirty in there. Since we're in here, and you can also kind of get it at it from the front, from the bottom here too, to the front part of it, that channel. Doesn't need to be perfect, but there you go. Might not be to Marine Corps standards, but it's airsoft standards. I'm gonna use this one. Again, this thing's just way easier. Makes it super easy. But I do like to use this for that final torque, is like, get a nice and snug, not too hard. Don't need to strip nothing. And then there's just, you know what? I'm gonna put this back in before I forget. So that little plunger, this pin, which goes from this side. Okay. Nice and flush. Do this gasket. Cue the crickets are chirping. Yeah, I appreciate you guys Oh man, see, I've been doing, this video's already 15 minutes. I've been doing these, and I've been getting them done in like 12, 13 minutes, but probably takes a little longer talking and stuff, talking it through. Okay, so that's back on. Now we just need to reinstall these parts, which are pretty easy. It's, you know, it kind of only goes one way, but that little pin drops in there or whatever. This one has a groove, so it can only go this way. It goes on top of that other one, so that when this goes up, it pushes that down, which pushes up the Z plate, the bolt stop basically. Gives your last round bolt hold open. Can't remember if I cleaned this out. I don't think I did actually. So I'm just gonna kind of wipe down the inside of the shell too. Some dust in there. Sometimes I like to take a pipe cleaner and clean out the BB channel here. I don't have any this time, so I'm just, don't have any with me, so I'm just gonna use some Q-tips. This one actually is pretty dirty. Usually they're not that bad in here anyways, but I mean, it makes sense. There's dust coming in through the feed lips, through the you know, where the follower is and the BBs are and stuff, and that would go right into this channel. I'm actually always surprised these aren't more dirty. Should be fine though. All right, so got this all reassembled. Gonna just slide that back in, orientating this way so those little bolt hold open followers don't fall out. Kind of pre-stage these pins. Look at that one, popped right in. Depending on how like worn or whatever your mags are, like this one, obviously this one's stiffer. It might be harder or easier to get in. Okay, and now just need to put the base plate back on. Shit, I was tripping. I guess I never took out the follower. It's still in there. Usually I pop that out and clean that off too, but it should be fine. It's just plastic, so there's not a lot of dirt that gets stuck to it. So here's the part that I think is a good tip too. You know, dealing with these springs and base plates, and you have this little follower you're supposed to put back in there, although it's not exactly necessary, but it helps kind of seat the spring into the base plate groove there. That can be kind of a pain, so what I found is using a flathead. I'll kind of push down the spring, use the flathead, kind of hold it in place. I can release, you know, go a few coils up, push it down, reset, like so, and just kind of inch my way down there. So I'm kind of pre-staging the spring here. And when I get to about that point, like maybe an inch or so, I'll put the follower back in like so, orientate this the right way. Here's your fill valve on the left, so it needs to go there. It's only going to go one way, but save you some headache. And then you can kind of just push this down. You can't see if it's kind of going along the flathead, and I remove the flathead, and it just falls down into place. It kind of clicks into place too. It's pretty little positive click once you get it in there. And sometimes I'm smart and I'll pre-stage these screws on the driver there, but just fiddle with it like that. I used to put Loctite on these screws. I stopped because I've never had them come loose personally. I don't think it needs it. Like I said, I think the base plate kind of clicks in. It kind of holds itself in. I mean, these screws, obviously you need them to hold it in, but yeah, I've never had these come loose, so I kind of stopped putting Loctite on that. But there we go. And then I'll just throw a little gas in. Actually, I'm getting a leak on this one. I just did like 5 of these, no problem. But yeah, so then you can check for leaks. That stopped. Sometimes with, sometimes I notice with if you get a little leak and then you just you either like fire the gun a couple times, that kind of like resets the system, gets the gas in everywhere, and then that kind of expands the seals, is my monkey brain understanding. But and then it's good to go. So I think this one will be fine. One last thing I do want to show is the only downside, I think, or the only weak point on these mags really is right here, this little wall where the bolt hold open follower thing goes. Sometimes if you drop your mag on concrete or whatever, this is pretty thin and this can get bent in, so much so that it impedes this movement. And if that happens, what you do is just take a punch and punch it back out. But you want to be careful to go easy, because if you go too much, that can happen. I actually just did this tonight. I was just not paying attention, but I knocked it too hard and it chipped that corner off. So good news is that'll never get in the way of this follower again. Bad news is if I happen to drop it right on that corner again at the right angle, it could, there's nothing protecting this plastic piece now. I mean, again, there's still all this flat surface, so it more than likely would be fine. But yeah, I've only had that happen once to one other mag. I just did another one tonight. But yeah, that does happen, and sometimes you'll notice like you won't get a last round bolt hold open, which typically is, I mean, it could be different things. A lot of times it's more to do with your bolt or your Z plate, which is the bolt catch, or your buffer. If you've seen my video or on buffer tuning, if your buffer and bolt isn't tuned properly, the bolt's not able to cycle far enough back, then it's not going to be able to lock back. But another possible issue is the magazine. If you're noticing it only happens with one mag, check this area here and just check to see if this thing can move freely when the mag is empty, as it should. So if not, you can bend it back out or just break it off like I did. Anyways, yep, goddamn, I don't know how these things always go like 10 minutes longer than it should, but hopefully maybe it helps a couple guys if you're doing this first time, and just have a couple little tricks that help you along the way. I'm sure it's not rocket science. I'm sure you'll figure it out anyways, but I thought that might help some people. All right, guys, take it easy.